Hi guys, it's Jamar here again. I decided to wait till tomorrow so I have access to a Wi-Fi instead of my mobile hotspot. So now basically I'm going to start over and do this again. So basically all I did was just set up the Express middleware configurations and stuff and then like connect them. So first I wanted, now you can use Node Package Manager or Yarn. I'm going to be using Yarn. So basically I just want to do Yarn like that, which basically creates a lock file. And you don't want to manually edit this lock file. This is basically just for um, basically like just for all the packages, and so you have to do that when using Yarn. So now I want to use Yarn init. Name is PostGrid version 1, and then basically a website that lets users see their posts in a grid format. Index.js for the entry point, your name for the author, MIT license, and then we're done. You can use clear to clear that. You can use control backtick to open and close the terminal. And so basically now we go into, oops, I don't know what I just did. So we go into package JSON. You can see all the stuff that we just inputted in Yarn init. And basically you want to add like some scripts here. So you use scripts like that. Oh, wait, oops, I put that on the outside. It should be inside there. So we put it here. Okay. You do scripts. And basically, you can do as many scripts as you want. With NPM, I know it comes with a default script, a default start script, but you have to add it in here for Yarn. And basically, we want to have a script for just the server. We want to have one for client, and then we want to have one to where we run both using concurrently, which is a module that allows you to run multiple scripts at once. And I'm just going to set those up now. And so basically, it'll be server for the backend. You can also call this backend or whatever you want. And it's going to be using NodeBind, which is another module that allows you to save and instantly restart the server instead of having to control C and then basically running the script again. And so it'll be index.js, which is our entry point file. And then we want to do client, which is the front end. And basically this will be npm start, which is one of the is basically one of the scripts that you get in your Angular folder. We'll do that in a minute. And basically, is looking for a prefix of client because that's the folder that it's in, so that you don't have to use client slash whatever. You can just use dash dash prefix. And then concurrently, which we didn't download yet, but concurrently, or not concurrently, but dev. And then we want to use concurrently. So we concurrently just like this. And then you want to escape because these both have to be in quotations for all the scripts you want to use like that. And in order to do that, we obviously have to use the backslash and then escape the character. And then it's going to be npm run. Even though you're using Yarn, you can still run it using npm as well. So you can use npm run server like that. And we have to escape the other quotation. So that just runs the server. And then we just simply do that again. Do npm run client because we use the prefix of client to make this look cleaner. And so it runs the client. So basically it starts the back end up first, and then basically it starts the front end. And then that's basically all you have to do for that. So you can control S to save it. And now we have to install a few packages. So basically, we need to install first the regular dependencies, and then we can install the dev dependencies. You use npm or yarn. And so I'm going to use yarn, and I can show you the npm way too. So it'll be npm I for install, or you can do the whole word. You can do any dependencies that you want. So I just say dependency like that, and then you use dash dash save to save it in the JSON file. And then with Yarn, you do the same thing, but it'll be add this time, and then any dependency like that, and then you can also save it. And then for npm, you can use install and a capital D for global dev dependency. And so basically that's how you would do that. And so basically the packages we want to install is Express, obviously, for the back end. Express Session, which is used for sessions. You use that with Redis as well. I'm going to install Cores for security. JSON Web Token, which we'll use to authenticate for certain routes. MongoDB. I know you have PostgreSQL and SQL as well, but this one will be using MongoDB, which is a NoSQL database. Mongoose, which is a ORM, which basically allows us to connect to MongoDB easier. And then we want Morgan for basically to see our server request in our console. And so I think that's it. And we will also want bcrypt.js, which works better than the regular bcrypt if you're using Windows. And basically, it just allows you to encrypt the password or encrypt whatever you want, so that you don't put like a plain text password in the database for security reasons. And that should be it. We use -- save like that, and it should install all of those for us. All right, and you can see it automatically adds those here with the latest version. Okay, now another cool thing about Yarn is basically it allows you to have the same version of dependencies that you use to make the project, so that basically, because things can actually go wrong if you have different versions of something. And so what Yarn does is you can freeze the package, or basically it allows you to use the same. You see we have dev dependencies now. It allows you to use the same versions of those dependencies when somebody downloads it or pulls it from like a repository, or however they get it, and basically it'll allow you to make sure that everything is working fine the way it should. Okay, so now we can close package.json, and I just want to just start working on the express config file. And basically you want to always have this in a separate file because, for instance, if you're using like GraphQL with Apollo server, you can pass in the entire middleware in an array. And so you pass in the entire express config and as like a middleware. So to use with Apollo server, so that's the one reason why you should do that. There's other reasons too. It's just for neater code. It's easier for other developers to look at it and basically understand what you're doing and basically building off of that. So that other people can understand it easily. And so first we want to just bring in Express. And so we can do that. And kind of session. Express session. And then const.env. Because when we basically configure this, we want it to basically configure inside of our entry point file, so that basically we can use them throughout our app no matter what file we're in. And these global env files, I think, can only work on the back end. So when you do like the front end with Angular, because it compiles everything based off what's all the folders and files that's in that file, already. You basically you can't use the oh, sorry about that. You can't use the global.env files, or global environment variables in the front end folder. So we want to bring in. So basically, I'm going to bring in two routes here. I guess I'll do that in a minute. So first, I want to use .env and config in the path of where the environment variables are at. Array, curly braces. And then basically it should be in a folder called config, and then it'll be named config.env. And so now we want to basically, so any middleware that we basically bring in, we want to use. And so basically we use app.use, which I didn't instantiate there yet. But you can name this whatever you want. It just instantiates the instance of Express. And so now we want to use app.use and bring in the middleware and instantiate the middleware as well. And so we want to use session. And this we can pass in options. keep doing it right for some reason. Okay, and so basically we want to do resave to false, save uninitialized to true. I mean false as well. That basically just saves an empty cache, and we don't want to do that. Secret, which basically is our secret key for the session data, and we use process, which is a node keyword, and pretty much that allows us to do different things within the app process. .env, which is another keyword, which basically allows us to access global environment variables, and then whatever we name this, so secret key is what I'll name it, and then cookie, and then it'll be secure to true. And then we want to also use some things for dealing with forms. And so we want to use URL encoded, dealing with actual like forms that we submit. And then we also want to use JSON, which used to be a body parser module, and that just deals with actual application slash JSON data. So for that content type. And so we use let's see, express.url encoded extended to false, and then express.json. Okay, and so now we just want to basically, well, first let's set up our static folder, because when we compile the Angular app on the front end, it's going to basically output it to a folder called dist, D-I-S-T, and basically we want that to come into our backend static folder so that we can compile that with our backend assets as well. So we basically want to use, you can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it public, so it'll be express.static, and then we basically want to also bring in the path module here. I also didn't use Morgan yet. I need to put that in there. I'll do that in a second. So express.static, and we just want to join the path of whatever the current directory is using path.join __ dir name. And then we want to do a comma and append on the actual name of the folder that we want. And it's just simply going to be public like that. You can also use file system.make directory or mkdir, and that'll make the folder for you an entry point if it's not already made. But I'm just going to manually make it here. So we can do folder and public, not public. I don't know. Name. Sorry about that. Public. Alright, and so now basically we also want to use Morgan, which basically allows us to see requests that we make to a backend inside of our console, and just use dev as like the basically what we pass into the constructor. And so now we just simply want to use app.listen. While I'm here, I may as well, any routes that we get that aren't like defined by the front end, basically we want to just redirect them to index.html. So like basically what we get when we compile the Angular assets. So basically we want to use star for everything that's not defined, and then basically empty, or we can put in request and response obviously for this because this is a route. We want to basically let's see, it would be response.send file. And this basically is send them a certain file, and so this path we want to basically be public, which is the static folder here, and then /index.html. And I think we don't have to use their name here with path.join simply because we did it here, and because Express knows it's the static folder and we did it before this line of code, it should hopefully read that. And so now we just want to listen. Before we do that, let's make a port. So port equal to another environment variable that we'll make, and it'll be process.env.port. And by default, if there's nothing in the environment variable or whatever, for whatever reason, it'll be 5000, which is the default port number for Express. Now we just simply want to listen on that port, so it'll be port like that, and then an empty callback, and simply just do we'll just log a statement, and it'll be use backticks, not the single quotes, because we're using a template literal to pass in a variable. You can also concatenate, but this is a lot quicker if you're doing ES6 version of JavaScript, and you can do server is running, or ES 2015, I think is another name for it. Server is running in, and then we'll do $ curly brace, another environment variable, process.env dot node underscore env for node environment. So the process is running, server is running in development mode on port, and then whatever the port number is. And so basically that'll just let us know that everything is running. Um, I actually had another error when I was making this a couple days ago, which actually made me spend the whole day trying to figure it out. And it was simply that I didn't connect to MongoDB because I didn't actually see the log statement that I'm making in the DB file. And so simple mistakes like that can cost. I guess I'll set up the config. So basically we can do config.env. You can see it change to a cog symbol. And so basically this is where all our environment variables will go. So we just have the Mongo URI, which is what we need to connect to MongoDB. And this should simply be whatever you get when you use connect to connect your application when you create a Mongo cluster using Mongo Atlas. You create a free cluster. You name the project whatever you want. You go in there, you create a new, you connect, and then you use connect application, and then you just get the simple string. And then when you get this string, you want to basically see this password here. You want to basically get rid of this placeholder as well as the caret symbols here. You don't want to leave the caret symbols or it won't work. And basically whatever your password is, I just did the same thing for mine. I think favicon is a cool word, so that's why I just used that for my password. And so basically, node env and then development, just the word development, and then our port, which is 5000, and secret key, which is for sessions, and that's our, I'm gonna just name it secret. And then we want, no, not secret key. And then we want a JWT secret, which for our token, and I'm gonna just name that type-root. So basically, that's all of our environment variables for our backend. So now I want to make another file here called db.js. And in here I simply want to, this is where I want to connect to MongoDB. And so I simply want to do const, and I want to bring in Mongoose because that's what we use to connect to Mongo. And then basically I want to put this inside of a try catch because whenever you're connecting to any kind of database, an error can happen and you want to basically account for that. So we can do try catch like that. And then basically inside of here, I want to create a new connection variable. Well, before I actually do that, oh wait, I think I did. Actually, I want this try catch inside of the method that I create. So basically, module exports is a node keyword, and basically it allows you to export objects and use them in any file you want. And so basically, we're going to use module exports, and we're going to have it equal to an anonymous function like that. And basically, I want this function to be asynchronous. I'm going to use the async keyword. You can also use a venable or .then, but I'm going to use async await syntax. And then I want to pass that entire try catch in there. And basically, in here, I just want to do const, and I want to create a new connection. I want to set that equal to await because we're awaiting the connection to Mongo, and it'll be mongoose.connect, and then it takes in the URI and then any options. And so basically we want to use an environment variable process.env.mongo URI. Remember, because we basically configured it here in our entry point, which is the first file that's hit when we run the backend. We can use this in any other file because it was already configured so that we can access, so we don't have to use configure statement in every single one where we want to use it. So just simply process.env the name of the whatever you named your Mongo URI, and we want to pass in some options. And so we just want to use create index to true, use find and modify to false. That's really important. If you use true and you use things like find one and update, find one and delete, it'll give you a warning saying that it's deprecated unless find and modify is set to false. So you want to make sure you set that to false. Use URL parser true. Use unified topology to true. And basically, we want to just log the statement to let us know it's connected, which I didn't do when I was making it. Or I didn't pay attention to it at least. And so we'll say server is connected at, and then the host. So we'll remember use backticks and not single quotation marks. We'll use $, curly brace, and then we'll use the new connection that we just created, dot connection, because that's like basically what we're looking for, and then host, which will give us where it's connected at. And then basically if there's any error, we simply want to just log the error, so we can console log error. And then we also want to use process and exit the application and exit one, because anything we do in this application requires that Mongo will be connected. So if it doesn't connect, the application won't work anyway, so we have to exit. And a code of one to basically just allow us to exit the right way. And so when we export this, you can see that when we call it, it should basically run all this for us. So we want to basically put this entire thing inside of our entry point file. So that would be here. So you want to put it below the .env config, because we can't use it unless we have this configured all the environment variables. And so we want to bring it in as well. So it'll be const. We can name it whatever we want. I'll just say connect to DB, and it'll be require. And so because we're in the root folder, we use / and then do config and then /db. We don't have to include the MIME type. And basically here we just want to connect to DB. It takes no parameters here. And then we just, because see, we didn't pass in any parameters. And so now we just connected. So now basically it'll connect here, and then Express will get instantiated. And then basically it uses the middleware. It sets up any routes that are endpoints that aren't defined in our front end, sends them to the basically redirects, and we listen on that port that we also define. So that'll be it for this video. I'm going to basically cut this video so it'll be easier for me to edit, and then I'll be right back in a few seconds.